So when you open the Bento app, it's automatically going to open to the library that you have on the top. To add a new library, you click on the home like button and you have different choices: add a new library, new collection, delete library, etc. If you click delete library, it's going to delete whichever one is highlighted, which right now is the student info one. So to start a new project, you would go to new library. Bento has a lot of different templates that you can choose from. Each of these templates have selected fields already created that make sense for the different type of template that you choose, all of which are completely customizable. You can edit them, you can delete them, make them whatever works for you. So for today, let's just pretend we're going to start a new student list. Okay, so when you open a new student list, it's going to come in with the sample data that comes with each template. Has a sample set of data. So I'm going to go in and I am going to change this for my class. So I'm teaching first grade. I'm looking at this right now before I enter any student data, and I know that for me, some of the things don't work. I don't need to have the class or the department. They're all in the same class. So to edit that, I would click the pencil button, and that brings up a sidebar with the different fields you can add. And to edit a field that's already there, you can click and hold, and you have the options to hide the field, rename it. The options tab has choices for shading and text size, so you can highlight things, but I don't really need this one, so I'm just going to delete it. And yes, I want to delete it. And let's delete this one too. Delete. Okay, so the rest of this looks, like something I could use. So I'm going to click the pencil button again, so now I can enter the data that I want and not just edit things. So if I wanted to add a picture of the student, I would click on the media box, and you can choose, a picture that you already have, or you can take a new picture, that type of thing. I'm not going to do a picture right now, but I do want to change the name because my student's name is not Mary. So let's just say their name is Jane, and Smith works. So you can go in and add all the things that are appropriate for you. If you wanted to add a field that you needed to have and wasn't already there, you would go to New Fields and choose whatever type of field works for you. They have lots of different fields to choose from. If I just wanted to add in, a note about, their birthday, I could do that. And you can drag and, change things around. Honestly, for their birthday, I probably should have chosen the date feature. That would make more sense. So we'll go that and add that in. Birthday. Okay. I already have one that says birthday, so I can't have two that say birthday. But you could add in a date one. You can also add in additional forms. So this form right now, I could rename it, general info. And over here, I could come and add another one. Let's say work samples. That would be another form I could add. You can add as many forms as you want. One of the things to keep in mind about forms is whichever forms you create in the different fields, those are all these little parts in here, that you put on a form are going to be the same for all of your students or all of your different categories on here. So if I wanted to add another student, I would click the plus button, and you notice that the field is the same. I still have the birthday that I added on, and I have the new form work samples. So whatever you create is going to be the same for all the different parts in your library. List that Bento already has available, I want to create my own because it makes more sense to put exactly what I want than delete and change the things that are already there. So if you want to create your own template from scratch, you would again press the circle button and go to New Library, and you would choose the blank template. The blank template comes up, and you can do exactly whatever it is that you want to do with it. So let's pretend that I want to create a library of all the picture books I use for different mentor texts. So mentor text for reading and writing workshop, as well as math workshop, that type of thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to edit this template so that it looks like how I want it to look. All the templates, the blank ones, come with date created and date modified, and you can't delete those, but you can hide them. So I'm going to hide it and hide it. So those go into the view fields area. So now I have a blank form and I need to make it work for a picture book. So I'm going to add a picture. I can add in the picture of what the book looks like. So there's my picture. And I'm going to put a field for the title of the book. So I chose the text one. I'm going to say title, create. Well, I think I probably need more space than that for my title. I want it to be the same size as the picture. So there's the title. I could also go in and add, a box if I wanted to for reading level. Let's say I want to have all the levels for my books. One thing to keep in mind is you have to be able to type on an iPad. So I can go in and add those things. One of the things I really like about Bento is that you can sort all your different fields. So I have a whole bunch of books, and some of them are good for math and some of them are good for reading. So I want to go in and add a list where I can check off what subject areas they're good for. So I'm going to put a title for that list. We'll do this over here. So let's change that text so that it doesn't say custom label. What would make sense? Subject. We'll just put subject. And one of the things you can do again is options, and you can shade it. So I want this to stand out a little bit, so I'm going to shade it. Subject. Okay, so different subject areas that I might have books for. Again, I said I wanted a checklist, so let's add in a checkbox. It could be a book for reading workshop. It could also be a book for writing. I don't know, maybe it's a book that also would work for a lot of different subject areas. So I'm going to put in all my subject areas that make sense for the subjects I teach. So reading, writing, math, science, and we'll add one more. Oops, that's not what I wanted. Social studies. Okay, so let's pretend I'm done with that for now. Let's pretend I put in a book about Paul Revere. Paul Revere Midnight Ride. So this would be a book that I would most likely use during social studies, so I would check that. When you look at your forms in the spreadsheet view, you'll be able to see the boxes that are checked off. So one of the things that's really cool is if you had all your books in here and you were looking for a book for social studies only, you wanted your social studies books, you can go and click and the arrows will sort them either by checked on all the checked ones on top or all the unchecked ones on top. You could also go in and if you're just doing your reading workshop books, you could have all the different skills you teach for reading workshops. So setting a purpose, different comprehension strategies. Maybe you want a book for prediction, and you could sort your books that way. So it's a really neat feature of Bento to be able to sort all your different things. So that would be how you go in and create a form template from scratch. So one of the forms that I made was a student info form. So I'm going to go ahead over to my sidebar and click on student info. And again, it opens up wherever you left off. So from the spreadsheet view, you could have your list of students going down and then all the different fields. Not really the best way to look at it, in my opinion, organizationally, but it can be really helpful if you're sorting students. So let's go in and look at one of my students. Okay. So here's John Smith's form. I created 4 different forms for this: general, parent log, assessments, and work sample. And I went in and just created some of the things that I thought of off the top of my head. Throughout the year, if other things came up and I needed to add that stuff in, I could easily do that. I like that I can put his picture. I can easily put check boxes, so is the student an English language learner? Yes. The student is not. No. I can add notes about the student that help me remember things, throughout the school year. I like the idea of including a parent log. I know a lot of schools require teachers to keep records of all the communication they make with their students and their parents throughout the school year in case any problems arise. So if I wanted to add, maybe I spoke to the student's parent on the phone. So I'd go down to their parent contact notes, and I would write, I don't know, the date. Mom called about, let's see, summer school's the last one, so about bus, I don't know, whatever works. So you can easily keep track of all of the different data for parents and all that type of thing. Another thing that's really neat is you can store all of your assessment stuff. So I don't know how other people organize. I used to always organize using binders. So I would have binders and checklists of all types of things. This is a really easy way to look at all of your students with one device. You can go in and add different assessments you might take. I just did the ones that I know that I have to give at the beginning of the school year: reading level, writing continuum, spelling level. You could easily go in and add standardized testing, English language learner, access testing, all those types of things. One of the things you do have to keep in mind, though, is that you cannot repeat the same name for a text field more than one time. So if you notice, at the beginning of the year, I have reading level, and then first quarter, I have Q1 reading level. And that's because when you try to add in a name for a text box that already exists, it doesn't let you do that. So let's just pretend I wanted to add the reading level for the second quarter. So I'm going to go over to New Fields. I'm going to drag the text box over. I'm going to change it, and I want it to be the student's reading level. The library already has a field with this name. Enter a unique name. So the way I problem solved for this was just putting Q for quarter and then whatever quarter number it was. So you have to be a little bit creative to make it work, but it still stores all the data that you need. And again, you can have as many columns as you want to have. Another neat feature is you can store different media samples. So you can have an example of the student reading that you could play for the parent at a parent-teacher conference. You can play it right within the app. You can also write notes about the student and take pictures and all types of things. So I can easily see myself using this to have examples of the student reading throughout the school year and pictures of their writing along with what the writing actually said it was, or what the student said the writing was. So lots of different things you can do that you would normally store in all these different features, you can have right here in one feature. So another library that I thought would be helpful would be a library to store all of my notes for my different guided reading groups. In the past, I've used sticky notes on clipboards and binders and notebooks and no notes and all kinds of things. So I thought, well, let's create one for reading groups. So you can have all different reading groups in here. I created one for a pretend group, the Dolphins, and I entered in all these different fields. So I started with a note template instead of a blank template for this one, and went in and made it work for me by changing the names for like meeting area and meeting day and that type of thing. So let's say I read with the Dolphin group again today, 319, and we read at the park again. It's just notes, so I'm not going to worry about capital letters and all that type of thing. And we did a reread for read for fluency. Goodness, I cannot type. Or fluency. You can obviously add in all different types of notes, but just for modeling sake, you can easily add your notes in. So if you wanted to have another reading group, go back into your spreadsheet and add in a group. Rename it the Seahorses. Let's say we're going with a theme for this one, and add in your group members, and again put in all the data that you want to use for that. You can easily go back and forth between your different groups by using the arrows on the bottom. Another library that I thought would be really helpful would be a library for like notes for conferencing with students during reading and writing workshop. I like to use the Daily 5 and the Cafe menu for organizing my reading workshop, and a lot of those groups can be organized during reading based on the strategies that students are using. So I thought, well, if I could sort my students based on their strategies, that'd be really easy for creating strategy-based groups instead of level groups. So I went in and I created a conference notes library using a blank template, and I started adding in the Cafe menu for emergent readers, going through the comprehension, accuracy, fluency, and expand vocabulary parts. So I clearly did not add all of those in, so let's say I was going to add in another part. I was using a checklist for this one, so I need to drag over checklist, and I think the first one on expand vocabulary for emergent readers, they're pretty much concepts about print related, was identify the front, man, I cannot type, and the back of books. So I'm going to add that checklist in there. Okay, so let's say that Joe is really good at listening with understanding, and he's got down the retelling using pictures, and he can identify the front and the back of the book. I want to look at one of my other students in here, Jane. Okay, so let's say Jane also, she can listen with understanding, not quite ready to retell using pictures, and she can identify the front and the back of the book. So you can go through and have all the different things checked off for your students. And what I thought would be really neat would be to go back into the spreadsheet view, and you can sort your students, all of your students in the column, by the different areas. So if I wanted to make a group of only students who could not listen with understanding, you go in and click and you can sort it, sort it going one way or the other, and it's not going to sort. Well, let's see what happens if I add another student. And let's say the student Justice. Let's change that around. Yep. Okay, there you go. So you see you can sort them by whether they're checked or unchecked. So if you wanted to make a group of all your students who were not able to do something, you could easily do it by sorting, the different box areas. This would also be really helpful if you were sorting students based on their reading levels into a reading level group, or if you were sorting students, for like words their way spelling based on their developmental spelling level. You could easily do that just by using the checklist feature. So I think that's a really great way to use Bento. Again, you can go in here and you can add your reading notes for your different conferences. You can, for writing, do the same thing. Have a picture of their writing and make a checklist for their, your school's writing requirements and that type of thing. Just a way to organize stuff using an app and just one little piece of, machinery instead of lots and lots of binders that take up lots of room. So a couple ideas for how you could use Bento in the classroom. Clearly there are lots of other ideas in, high school, junior high, doesn't matter what grade level, you could find a way to use Bento instead of using paper, and I think it's a great way to use the iPad for classroom organization.